Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 15 of The Long and Winding Royal Road. My name is W.H. Park, and we're at episode 15. I didn't know if how long this series is gonna last, but like a lot of people seem to be enjoying the series. So thank you very much. Of course, The Long and Winding Royal Road is about the 1990s era of all Japan Pro Wrestling. In my opinion, the greatest product ever in the history of this despicable great sport that we all love. And it's my favorite in-ring product. And as you know, if you've been listening up to 15 so far, you know why we detail the greatness of a lot of these amazing matches that exist in the company at this time. And joining me today is a first-time guest. But he's not a first-time guest to Post Wrestling or any of the shows that I do. And it's my good friend, Joey Bay. Joey, how are you?
Doing well, WH. Thanks for having me on. I've admittedly, like I told you off air, I'm wearing my beautiful, very stylish, the Pillars, the Long and Winding Royal Road of Wrestling T-shirt that went on sale a few weeks ago, I believe. And man, I've probably gotten like 6 or 7 wears out of this shirt already.
Awesome.
I love it. So
you got
great work.
See, I know John Cena has the shirt, and like he went to like this meet and greet with like AEW people. And I saw a picture of him and Eddie Kingston. I'm like, why the fuck didn't you wear my T-shirt with like you get to meet Eddie Kingston? Maybe he'd buy one. He'd be like, oh, where's that shirt from, player? And then he'd buy one.
Where can I get that, partner?
Right? You'd be like, and then like I could say like fucking Eddie Kingston owns the Pillars shirt. And then listen, excuse me, if Eddie Kingston wears that thing in public, I'm gonna get like sales through the roof. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, yeah, totally. He wears it out on Dynamite or something like that. You're making some bank, dude.
My dream. Okay, this is my dream. Someone make this fucking happen. Okay, Eddie Kingston wears that T-shirt out for a match against Ken Chan.
Oh.
And then sales of that shirt through the roof. What's that? Eddie Kingston. Oh, I go to store at postwrestling.com. It's the shirt. And then, you know.
Oh yeah, no, I totally could see him doing that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a listener if he hasn't already said so. I mean, he shouts out Joseph Monticello's awesome All Japan videos all the time. So, I mean, you're like one removed from
wow,
him. So.
I don't know. I mean, I did say like his Misawa tribute gear doesn't look good.
Well, I mean, if anything, I think the best way to describe you is you're an extremely honest person, and I would agree with those sentiments. That gear did not look good that night.
His Kawada tribute is like a lot better. The black and yellow he wears is a lot better. I'll say that about Eddie Kingston. Yeah, but like, hey, like I will say this about Mr. Kingston, that if he wore that shirt, I do think it's like the best like endorsement and advertising I could get for that shirt. But like, you know what? I'm gonna list. You know what? I'm gonna do that right now, Joey. I'm gonna list because I can't remember who I thanked the last time. So I'm going to just thank everyone who's bought a T-shirt so far. Let me just get that out of the way. So
for sure. Yeah,
shout out to the people who have bought the L&WRR Pillars T-shirt that's on sale at store.postwrestling.com. And that's Brandon from New Jersey, our good friend, Alan Farrell, Brian Klein. Oh, Dr. Keith Lipinski. He bought the shirt. That's awesome. To me, it's like as an old school, like, you know, F4W listener and like message board person. Oh, Dr. Keith bought this shirt. Awesome. Have you seen him wear it? Maybe he's going to wear it at an AEW show.
Yeah, I'll definitely be seeing him next weekend at All Out weekend. So I will. I'll be packing this T-shirt as well, and I'll make sure Keith and I are twinsies at least at one of the shows. maybe we'll sneak a mark pick with each other. So with our matching T-shirts,
that'd be awesome.
Send it to
you. Their man Neil Flanagan, John Cena, Ashley Lane, Rich Fan. JP Houlihan, Joseph Bay, Eric Jones, Scott Ferry, Scott Torrance, Ewan McKenzie, and Jesse Ballesteros. Hope I said that right. But thank you everyone who's bought a shirt so far. Spread the word, like wear it out in public and tell people, hey, you can get this shirt at store.postwrestling.com. But that's enough of that.
I must say, WH, that's a star-studded list of purchasers. I mean, that's a.
You got like Alan and Dr. Keith and Sino does the shows for us over at Post and does a lot of writing for us. Rich fan, JP. I love JP. Like maybe my love of JP rivals my love for you, Joey.
Oh, that's so nice.
That's the nicest thing I can say. So.
I love me some Neil Flanagan too. He's a great guy.
He is a very good man. I don't claim him. That's why I always say their man. He belongs to John and Wei, but I'm glad to have correspondence with what right now, like he's probably like so happy. He's like doing a little jig in his home in Ireland, and he's like, "Ooh, Joey and WH are saying my name." Oh, like that. But you're welcome, Neil. Thank you for buying the shirt, and you're welcome for me putting you over. Very strong on the long and winding road. But Joey, today let's talk about, before we get to the match, let's talk about your fandom for All Japan of the 1990s. What is your fandom for this product?
All right. Well, I was expecting this question, and I really, even coming into this, I really didn't know how to answer it. Without, being pretty long-winded and all over the place, but essentially I'd if I were to pinpoint a time where I started watching classic All Japan Pro Wrestling, it would have been right around 2005, 2006, when that's right around when I started buying Ring of Honor DVDs. And that's obviously the gateway drug to all of this other stuff for, at the time, a youngin' like myself. I was 15. So I was looking for any alternatives to what was going on and what was being aired on television at the time in terms of wrestling. So with the Ring of Honor coming in and kind of getting learned up on all this other wrestling that happens in the world, I started hearing about the Misawas and the Kawadas and Taues and Kobashis and Akiyama. And I honestly, I think if I remember correctly, I watched a Kobashi Kawada match, and I loved it, but I did not understand the allure. And I'm probably going to get blackballed for this, but I didn't understand the allure of Misawa and Taue at the time. For whatever reason, just aesthetically, I didn't get it with Misawa and definitely with Taue. But over time, I mean, it's hard not to grow to love all like that. All of those guys, all the pillars, including Akiyama. And yeah, I don't know. I think it was just an acquired taste, but to pinpoint my fandom, I think it started in 05, 06, like I said, and then just compounded from there. That's not to say I'm a completionist by any means. I still tend to just kind of parachute in and just find random matches when I've got some downtime and want to watch something that I know will be good and keep my attention. But it's definitely something I want to do at some point in time in my life, is just sit down and try and watch as much of that 10-year span as possible. It's just not something that I've squeezed in yet in my life.
Well, I mean, you got all this light tube stuff to watch,
yeah,
to keep up with. So, but as you say, 05, 06 is when you start with the classic All Japan in the 90s, which is like funny because that's kind of like the peak of Pro Wrestling Noah.
Exactly.
Ring. And like, so were you like kind of like, oh, these guys were all in All Japan, but like I can see them currently in Pro Wrestling Noah.
Yep, exactly. It was kind of like for me, I at least mentally, like I can recollect my wrestling fandom starting and going into hyperdrive in like 96, 97. And I had noted, like, obviously, like the NWO had started, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall had jumped over. And it was kind of like the same thing, like you just said, saying like, oh, these guys in Noah used to be in All Japan. It was kind of like that with like Nash and Hall, like, oh, these guys in WCW, they used to be in the WWF. Obviously, the circumstances are quite a bit different with the exodus happening in like 2000 from All Japan. But yeah, no, it's definitely, there's definitely a correlation with the Ring of Honor at the time, having the relationship with Noah and getting exposure to those guys, and then going back and watching some of their old stuff from the previous decade.
Yeah, I think if you're starting with Noah in like the early 2000s and you're like, where do these guys come from? Because like, at that point, like tape trading has actually, I think, exploded in the early 2000s. like especially with the advent of message boards and people like being able to like not necessarily do newsletters or anything, but like, oh, I can go into this forum and there's a bunch of people who have like a lot of this footage that I can get stuff from. And so like Noah and on All Japan were like the top of the line of as far as that kind of stuff was going, like that and like New Japan Juniors and FMW stuff like that. But like it must have been like for me, it was like I was already familiar with this before because I was a fan of the All Japan stuff before Noah existed. And then, but for people like who come in with Noah and like they're seeing kind of like older versions of like Kobashi and Misawa especially, and then you go back and it's like, oh damn, they were young. They looked, they're moving a lot. They're a lot more mobile, and they're a lot more crisper in their work. And so it's to go back and forth like in time with your fandom with these specific Noah guys who were the pillars in All Japan. That must have been really fascinating. Like I don't have that experience per se, but like I think thinking about it, I'm just like, what that must have been like, really.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to just have like a treasure trove of content that you could kind of go back and just kind of get lost in essentially whenever you want, which is actually kind of a benefit to new fans. I mean, even now, like I guess the direct comparison would be like maybe depending on who you ask, I'd say like maybe the AEW guys like the Bucks and Kenny, and like seeing what they're doing now and then going back 12, 15 years and seeing their PWG work and being like, wow, there's all this stuff they've been doing for this entire, they have a whole catalog of great matches and years worth of like jumping around from promotions. Obviously these guys primarily stayed in All Japan and Noah, but it's nice to have like a bunch of content ready and available for you as soon as you dive into a new channel of wrestling or of content,
Definitely. I'm like that. I was like, the last thing I was like that with was probably like 2AW, to be honest with you. I was watching a bunch of the stuff during the pandemic because like they were one of the few companies that were like enjoyable for me with like, with like no fans, but like the other members of the roster would be the fans and make the noise. So I thought, oh, that's acceptable. They're in the 2AW arena, which became like the epicenter of pro wrestling in Japan, like last year. So I was like, oh man, I'm looking at a lot of these guys like here in 2AW, like, yeah, your Ayato Yoshidas, but like, I'm like, Kaiji Tomato and Tank Nagai. I'm like, oh, these guys are fun. I'm going to go back and try to, find as much 2AW footage as I can and try to watch a lot of it. So that was a fun thing. So I think that's maybe kind of my parallel with what you're talking about here. But let's get to today's match. What did you pick for us to watch and review here, Joey?
All right. Well, as you know, I went back and forth because I felt like this was a big opportunity and a fun opportunity to talk about something that you and I usually don't have a chance to talk about. But I ultimately landed on the Championship Carnival Final from 1996 between Akira Taue and Dr. Death Steve Williams.
It's kind of interesting that you picked this because like episode 14, the last episode with JP Gulan, he picked the 1995 Champion Carnival with Misawa and Akira Taue. So I thought this is kind of like nice synchronicity we have here. Like we're jumping a year ahead with episode 15 to like Taue, and once again appearing in the finals of the Champion Carnival. This is on April 20th, of course, emanating from the grand Budokan Hall that you and I both been to.
Yes, sir.
And like I always think like I think we had a great experience because we saw the G1 in Budokan Hall, and that was a great time there. But can you imagine being at Budokan in this era for like these All Japan shows?
Dude, yeah, it's something that I like try to envision now that I've been in the building. I don't know if you do the same thing, but like now that I've been in the building, I can kind of like figure out like based off of my viewpoints and where I sat the 3 times I've been in the building, I can kind of like think like this is what this spot would have looked like from this point of view. But yeah, Budokan is insane to be at for a wrestling show or probably any event. You could probably speak more to that, but yeah, no, it's
I've only been to Budokan for wrestling. Like I would love to have seen a concert at Budokan. Like I know
I'm sorry. I thought you and JoJo went to was it one of the Oasis guys?
Oh, no, Galley. That wasn't at Budokan, unfortunately. That was like in Makuhari Messe, where New Japan sometimes has shows. Like that's a completely different part of Tokyo, actually.
Gotcha.
But I wish it was at Budokan. I would have like lost my mind if it was at Budokan.
Yeah.
But yeah, good show. Like JoJo's been to Budokan. I think he's seen Paul McCartney at Budokan.
Gotcha.
And some other acts there. So like he's lucky he's gotten to have the full like Budokan experience. But yeah, like so why did you pick this particular match though then, Joey?
So I picked this because like I said earlier, guys like Misawa, for whatever reason, I mean, I feel silly even saying this now, especially considering probably the people that are listening to this being like, you didn't get Mitsuharu Misawa. But the same can be said about Taue. And I think he's more understandable in that sense, in terms of kind of getting him, just because he's kind of clunky. He's not the most crisp wrestler. He moves in a very unique kind of awkward way. But I mean, gosh darn it, if I wasn't lying, if I said he's probably my favorite of the guys now, like it just really took being like an acquired taste, I think. And then in terms of his opponent, I mean, you can't go wrong with Dr. Death Steve Williams. So it sounded great on paper. I had never seen the match, so I said, it's a great chance to see these two square off. And I really think both of these guys move in such unique ways in the ring, that I was just kind of intrigued prior to even watching, just seeing what this match looked like. So
yeah, I mean, with Dr. Death Steve Williams, I always liked him. Like when I first got to see him, he was wrestling in Jim Crockett Promotions. He was doing like I think this is just prior to him joining the Varsity Club with Mike Rotunda and Kevin Sullivan and Rick Steiner. And I was always familiar with him through the After Mags. So I was like, this guy looks amazing. Why hasn't Vince like scooped this guy up in the 80s? Like that to me was always like a head scratcher for me. But like, and then I started seeing his work in All Japan, especially his tag team with Terry Gordy, the Miracle Violence Connection. And I always thought like, yeah, this guy's awesome. But like he has kind of a shelf life as far as like being like a top shelf worker in All Japan after like maybe the first 4 years of his tenure there. I think he does peak. Like for me, like Gordy, going back, I always think like Gordy is the more dynamic worker of the MVC. So like I always think it was a shame like how Gordy ended up turning out to be through his own personal like foibles and things like that. But like Dr. Death Steve Williams in 96 is kind of an interesting person to look at here. And yeah, we're going to get into that as we go through the match itself. Let me give some background on this particular finals from 1996. So Taue, like I said before, reached the finals of the 95 Carnival, and he fell short to, of course, Mitsuharu Misawa, and in the match that we reviewed last month. In this version of the Champion Carnival, he takes on Dr. Death Steve Williams. Kind of interesting to know that Taue is one half of the World Tag Team Champions with Toshiaki Kawada at this time, the Holy Demon Army. And the carnival itself in 96 was a 12-man single block round robin format. And the participants were Akira Taue, Steve Williams, Stan Hansen, Ken Kobashi, Mitsuharu Misawa, Toshiaki Kawada, Gary Albright, Johnny Ace, the Patriot, Del Wilkes, Jun Akiyama, Takao Omori, and Taman Honda. Like Taman Honda is kind of like, why is he in there? Like I could think of like a couple other people I'd rather have put in the Champion Carnival if I would have put like, rookie Taman Honda in 96.
Yeah, it looks like they needed a fall post by the look of his total final total of points in the tournament.
I never agree with that concept of like having some guy lose all his matches. Like if that, like that to me kind of invalidates the purpose of like something like the Champion Carnival or the N1 in Noah or the G1 in New Japan. It's just like you should. I don't agree with the idea of like putting like let's make it a 24 person block, 2 blocks. It's like just have like 10, 12, and then divide over 2, and then you have the finals. Like that's what I would do. like I don't like single block tournaments either. I think it's better, more dramatic to have like two person, like a set of two blocks for a tournament like this.
Yeah, I agree. I like the modern G1 style for a big tournament like this as well.
I always think like single blocks is like I don't know. I like then shorten it down to like 6 people. Like don't make it so long, because then you're just wasting some of the matches, in my opinion. But that being what it is, like you do get a lot of high end matches when you have like the Champion Carnival, especially in this era of All Japan. Let's talk about the path to the finals for each guy. So Taue's path to the finals, he defeated Johnny Ace, Jun Akiyama, Gary Albright, Stan Hansen, Taman Honda, Takao Mori, and the Patriots. So those are people he got wins over, which is pretty impressive, like list of names there. He had draws with Toshiaki Kawada, Kenta Kobashi, and Steve Williams. And his only loss was to Mitsuharu Misawa. So he did very, very well for himself in this tournament, Joey.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Like, is it 3 30-minute draws for him in this tournament? That's insane. Yes. Like, that's so nutty to me.
Well, I mean, like looking, like I can understand the one with Williams. Obviously, this is like trying to build up. Yeah. They know, like Baba knows this is the finals. So like, okay, he can't beat Williams, or Williams can't beat him. And Kawada, they're tag partners, and Kobashi it's Kobashi, right? Like Kobashi, you're building up a
protect
future,
your guys.
Yeah, future match down the line, and his only losses to the ace of the company, in Mitsuharu Misawa. Steve Williams' path to the finals. He got wins over Johnny Ace, Jun Akiyama, Taman Honda, Toshiaki Kawada, Mitsuharu Misawa, Takao Mori, and the Patriots. So he got 2 big wins with the Kawada and the Misawa wins here. So like did very well for himself. He had draws with Gary Albright, Stan Hansen, and of course aforementioned Akira Taue, and he only suffered 1 loss, and that was to Kenta Kobashi. So again, like if you look at Williams's like list of people he beat, I think it's more impressive because he has the wins over Kawada and Misawa on his path to get to the finals.
Sure. Yeah. Again, noting 3 draws for both of these guys in the tournament.
I mean, like things like the Champion Carnival, G1, whatever. It's like they're all intricately booked to like they have to get these guys have to be in the finals, so they have to have these kinds of points. And, like then what's the tiebreaker with like other people? Like, okay, so this person beats the person who beat this person, so they're ahead of that person in the points. And I can never keep track, Joey. I don't know what you're like during G1. I can never keep track of like how to make like, when we get down to like, the last 4 days of the G1, it's like, ooh, who's got the tiebreaker? Da da da. I can't keep track. Like, nope. And I don't have the real sports background fandom to like, figure this shit out.
Yeah, no, complex. It's like doing complex math for me. Like I kind of hand wave it and just tune in and hope that the commentators and the graphics before the show starts help explain the different possible outcomes. But usually I wake up on G1 final day and I'm like, I have no idea actually the block final days, and I'm just like, I have no idea how things can turn out, but I hope this person and this person are in the finals this year. That's usually how I go into stuff like this.
Yeah, same with me. Yeah. So taking a quick look at like maybe the kind of career history of like Taue and Steve Williams against each other. Most of their interactions in the past were in tags, foremost with Taue teaming with his mentor Jumbo Tsuruta against Williams and Gordy in the early 90s. And then and then when Taue's team starts teaming with Kawada, they would be taking on the Miracle Violence Connection quite a bit. I couldn't find that much history of them having singles matches against one another, but I'm sure they exist on like house shows here and there throughout the history of like, like the 6-year period that like Williams is like, been wrestling in All Japan at this point. But yeah, let's for a bit of a change.
I actually have a note on that. So it looks like from 91 to 98, they had 1 singles match. That actually doesn't line up. They had a singles match in the Superpower Series that Williams won in 1991. And then 92, 93, 94, 96, 97, 98, and 2000, they had 1 singles match in the Champion Champion Carnival of that year, and then the final in this year that we're discussing now. So it's pretty limited in terms of singles matches. I only found 9.
Yeah, it's not a lot considering like how often like Steve Williams was like touring with All Japan, and I'd be curious. Like I would imagine he has like a nice number of like matches against like the other pillars in terms, like with Kobashi and Kawada and Misawa.
Yeah.
But but then again, like you don't really put Taue in the top mix in terms of like, big singles matches. Like he's not the one Baba's necessarily going to be going to. He gets a push, because he is like Baba, I think, recognizes, hey, this guy's, he's not like the other 3, but he's good in his own right. But I also think like, Baba looks at Taue and sees himself in Taue.
Yeah, like, it's kind of hard not to.
Yeah. Oh, he's gangly and like awkward moving like me. He's if I was one of the pillars in the 90s right now, I would be Akira Taue. So I think that's part of the appeal for Taue to Bob, and I think that's part of his appeal to the All Japan fans at large, because it's like, hey, they love Baba, and they're like, oh, he's kind of like a modern version of Baba, but he can move, who can actually like do jumps and stuff like that. Like, Baba, bless his heart, greatest promoter in the history of wrestling, but he was not a super great, worker himself. So, no, like I don't, people might say, oh, you have to go back deep and watch his matches from the 60s and 70s. Like I've seen some of his matches from the 60s and 70s. He's fine. Like I think his appeal was his charisma rather than his work. Like, of the 2 big names, big promoters, New Japan is Antonio Inoki, Baba is All Japan. Inoki was the better worker, but Baba is definitely the better promoter.
Oh, for sure. Hands down.
So anyways, as a change of pace though, Joey, for this episode, I'm going to let you lead the match review, because one, I watched this and then I had to prepare for another show I had to do. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to have time to like be able to write the notes. And you graciously said, yeah, I can do that. So, but I did watch it this morning before we met up here on the Zoom room. And I did make notes myself, but I'm going to just just be kind of giving addendums to the kind of points you're going to be making. So let's talk about Steve Williams versus Akira Taue, April 20th, 1996, Champion Carnival Finals at Budokan Hall.
Alrighty. And just as you noted, WH, I would like to preface this. This is my first like actual written match review. I don't normally make match notes of any sort. I just kind of press play and I'm along for the ride. Even when I do podcasts, I'm that crummy guest that does not make pre-show notes or anything. So be gentle, everyone. I'm doing my best here. But alrighty, so here we go. Like you said, April 20th, 1996, Championship Carnival Final, Tokyo Budokan Hall. We see both men make their entrance to very positive reactions from the crowd. Both men are extremely over in Tokyo. I can't speak for other markets, but both men just come out and Budokan is on fire already.
I think with Williams, it's like he's got that awesome theme music. I think it's from Kiss, right? Yeah.
And then Taue, I don't. His entrance is so cool too. It's just the guitar riff and everything, and then he just comes in and he they hold the young boys hold the ropes open for him. And side note, did you notice any of the young boys? The only one I noticed was Misawa Noe. That's the only one I could recognize. So
Takao Mori is there.
Okay.
Yoshinari Gawa is one of his Taue seconds. Manakea Mossman, Taiokeya, is like holding the ropes for both. He like does it first for Taue, and then he goes to the other side and does it for Steve Williams. I do not know who the big guy, like there's a guy in the corner of Steve Williams. I do not know who that is.
Yeah.
He's wearing an All Japan jumpsuit, but he doesn't, I don't know. It's not Wolf Hawkfield. It's not the Eagle, George Hines. It's not Johnny Smith. It's definitely not Johnny Ace, because he wouldn't be like doing that duty anymore.
Yeah.
Not for Steve Williams. So I don't know who that is. So if like you're listening and you know who that is, I'm sure there's someone who knows. It's probably, totally. I'm going to get a DM from Alan Cunan. He's like, WH, that was da-da-da-da. Oh, was it? Oh my God. There you go. So,
I never feel bad if I don't know something that Alan knows, because he's an encyclopedia when it comes to this stuff. So
if it's not Alan, it's going to be someone who's going to come in and like just tell me, oh, that's this so and so person who never became anything, but that was who was in the corner of Steve Williams. Yes, but yeah, it's a good entrance. Like and Budokan, I think, is like really on fire. I think like with the things you have to remember with All Japan fans is like they follow. Like, so they know that this is like Taue's second chance to be in the Champion Carnival Final. And like, maybe, and I think they're firmly behind Taue in 96. So like, it's a good atmosphere for that. Adds a great backdrop for this match.
And one more side note before we continue, I will have to shout out whoever does the ripping of these, the version we were watching. I believe, you said you watched the version I shared with you. It was from a G+ airing of, it was just a classics airing of Akira Taue's, I believe, his big matches in 1996. So we watched a very crisp, clear, non-grainy version of this match, which kind of helps my enjoyment in any circumstances. Just if the video quality is good, you can see every little nook and cranny of the arena, then I just heightens the excitement for me when I'm watching these wrestling shows, especially these older matches from 20 plus years ago. So anyways,
a non like 10th generation version of any match from the 90s is good to see.
And I hope G+ keeps airing these old All Japan big shows, because I have a good amount of them saved on my my hard drives that I share with you, and man, it makes it a lot more fun to go back and watch those full cards when it's just in like crystal clear condition. So
definitely agree. Unfortunately, like the version we'll be sharing in the show description is on YouTube and is not as crisp and as beautiful as the one Joey and I watched. But hey, that's because you're not me and Joey. So sorry. Sucks to be nice, you.
If you're nice and you want to see it, I can definitely share and just
that's only for me. Forget all these other people.
Never mind. Nobody asked me for this copy. But anyways, moving forward, WH's favorite ref, Kyohei Wada, is your referee for the match.
He's the greatest ref in this period of time in history, in all of wrestling.
He was awesome. He really knew how to really hit that cadence with his ring counting with the 1, 2, 3.
It's everything, though, like he makes it feel like a sport.
Yeah,
like a real athletic contest. That's I think the goal of all refs should be. Like, even if you're doing like some bullshit meme wrestling comedy crap, like the referee should be the anchor to try to hold it into reality. Yeah. So like when the ref is like doing the comedy shit, is like, nah, I'm done with you. I'm done with this whole match then.
Yeah. Well, in terms of what he does now with the Miyahara bits and stuff like that, I mean, he's kind of a meme of himself.
No,
but
he's like, I just wish he retired 5 years ago. Yeah.
But yeah, Lee, you're right. Back then he was a great ref, and I still pop. I hope someday Japanese crowds can still yell his name before the start of a match. Fingers crossed COVID ends at some point soon, so we can see that.
Yeah.
But moving forward, the bell rings and the intensity is off the charts with some heated lockups, where Taue seems to have the slight upper hand thanks to his sumo background. You could tell these two had a score to settle based off of just the intensity of them locking up at the beginning of this match. I'd imagine this carried over from the 30-minute draw they had earlier in the tournament that we mentioned. We start off the first offensive maneuver of the match is a shoulder tackle by Williams. Taue responds with a big boot to the face. Williams then hits a lariat and starts clubbing on Taue and takes control early as he settles things down with a snug sleeper hold. Taue then gets to the ropes for a rope break. Williams tries to reapply the sleeper, but Taue sneaks around him, hits a gnarly backdrop followed by a couple gruesome looking guillotines on the top rope. I don't know if you noticed those guillotines, but man, those don't look fun, especially if you've ever like felt a ring rope that these guys are massive. they have massive bodies. So like their weight coming down on that top rope, just, it kind of stuck with me. So I had to make note of that.
I noticed like, like couple of points in like what you're talking about. Like one of the things I noticed in my second viewing of this match was like Taue's, like, I think his goal in this match, I haven't seen the 30-minute drop, but like, I think one of his goals is to avoid locking up with Steve Williams. He doesn't want to do that because like, like Steve Williams is like got these massive arms. He also has got a legit, like amateur background. And so like, I don't want this guy grabbing me. Like, and his big finisher was the dangerous driver, which is a backdrop driver, but like the high angle one that almost killed Kobashi.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was really interesting to watch Taue kind of be strategic in that sense of like, okay, I got to avoid getting hit with this move, like, or getting tied up with Doc. So like, he's always trying to get into the ropes. Always trying to position himself into the corner. And then in the corner, like because of his own kind of like height and his kind of like odd, like, body type, that he's able to get maneuver out of corners and put Doc in them. Like, and so, it's really interesting to see his like, oh my God, like Taue is like being an awesome fucking worker in this.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like psychology through the roof if you're paying attention. From there, Taue, after the backdrop driver, and then the two guillotines on the ropes, where he drops Dr. Death on his neck on the top rope. Taue then gains control with a sleeper, but only for a few moments, because Williams then gets to the rope. Taue allows him up and then whips Dr. Death and hits a drop kick. Taue then goes for a pile driver or power bomb attempt. It was kind of undiscernible at that point because Dr. Death reverses and sends Taue to the outside at that point.
Yeah, I think he's going for the dynamic bomb, like his power bomb. That's what I think he's going for. And then, I got to make mention of this. Like, there's like that striking exchange that him and Williams have. And it's like, Taue's able to get the advantage because he has these great overhand chops to the top of, like he does this a lot with a lot of his opponents. Like he'll just chop the top of their head and it looks kind of goofy. But if you really think about it, it's like, I don't want to get hit in the head with an overhand chop by a man this tall and like with arms that are like look like that I think there's like a lot of like, leverage that he's and like momentum that he's able to create with the type of arms that he has and like his height obviously as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. From there, Taue gets dumped to the outside. He is visibly frustrated and rushes back in, and we get some back and forth action, ending with Dr. Death hitting his running ram into the corner, and then following up with a power slam. Follows up with a couple snug elbows on the ground, and then applies a Boston Crab. Taue then gets to the ropes, and we get some more slap and strike exchanges. Taue then manages to hit a DDT, hits a running big boot, but Williams retaliates with a vertical suplex, a running splash in the corner, and a running drop kick into the corner, and then hits a spine buster in the middle of the ring for a nice 2 count.
Yeah, so I just want to make a couple of points here. Is like there's that point that you mentioned with Dr. Death tries to goes for the Oklahoma Stampede into the corner, and Taue just looks like a spider. Like he's just like, no, I gotta grab these ropes, and he's like grabbing everything with like each one of his limbs, like his both his legs and both his arms are like grabbing the ropes in the corner so he doesn't get like pulled out and power slammed by Dr. Death after being rammed into the Oklahoma Stampede. I just thought it was really cool to watch that. And one thing I got to note about like Taue is that like each of the 4 pillars has like their trademark strikes, right? Like so Misawa has his elbows, Kawada has his kicks, and Kobashi has the chops. But you know what Taue's really good at? It's the slaps. He's got the best slaps of anyone among the 4 pillars. Like especially when he's like slapping people in the face, it's really fun to watch. Maybe that's where Akiyama was inspired to like do his own face slaps. It's like, you know what? I got to get face slaps that are just as good as Akira Taue.
Yeah, you're probably right. So from there, Dr. Death hits a spine buster, like I said, for a 2 count. Williams then gets up, picks Taue up, and hits an insane tiger suplex. Like I thought, I mean, if you were watching this live, you'd be like, Taue broke his neck here.
Well, it's interesting because like he's trying to go for the dangerous driver. Yeah, can't get it. So then he uses like Misawa's signature suplex, which is the tiger suplex, and it's just like, I think, I don't know, like I can't remember, Steve Williams using this move like that often, if ever. So like for people in the Budokan, it must be like, oh shit, he used Misawa's move. Misawa beat him last year. Like, Steve Williams is like going deep into the repertoire of like using other people's moves, people who've beaten Taue. So like I think it's a sign of like maybe the desperation that Dr. Death feels against Taue at this point in the match. Yeah,
like he needs to use Misawa's tricks essentially to do the job essentially. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Him using the Misawa's move. That's a great point, WH. Taue then rolls to the outside as soon as possible to get some distance. Dr. Death follows suit and brings Taue back in with a body slam from the apron. I had trouble like typing this note out, but visually, so Dr. Death was on the inside of the ring. Taue was on the apron on the outside of the ring, and Dr. Death reaches over the top rope and scoops Taue and then body slams him back into the middle of the ring. And just visually, I had to rewind it a couple of times because for whatever reason, logistically, that didn't make sense to me how he was able to scoop a guy from inside the ring, from outside of the ring, and cleanly body slam him into the middle of the ring. Like, it was
especially when like with Akira Taue's body, like it's very awkward looking. So
yeah,
but he did it. I mean, it's not like I've never seen like someone like usually you pick up somebody by like I don't know, around wrapping your arms around like or your hands around someone's throat or by their hair and like throwing them over the top rope into it. But like doing a scoop slam is it's kind of interesting, technique to use here. But Dr. Death is he's one of the things he's really famous for is being like incredibly strong and being able to like pick people up, like people who are like seemingly unpickable by other people, but Dr. Death can do it. So yeah,
especially like it being in an awkward position like it was. I mean, it just really caught me off guard. So
we'll talk about a lot of awkward things from Dr. Death in this match. I'm sure
that's very true. So from there, both men get up. Taue hits an enziguri out of nowhere that Williams shakes off immediately and fires back with some strikes. That this exchange, like we said just a few seconds ago, this exchange kind of looks a little awkward to me, but it ultimately results in Taue managing to hit a German suplex, and the crowd kind of comes alive at that point. Taue then hits another big running boot, sending Dr. Death to the outside.
I love his running boot, like with the jumping high kick. I just think, so cool. Like for someone who you normally think, oh, that looks weird, but man, like he looks graceful doing it.
Yeah,
like I'm gonna say the word graceful and Akira Taue aren't normally associated with one another, but like when he does this just jumping high kick, whether it's against Steve Williams or Misawa or Kobashi or whoever, like it looks great, and it's one of my favorite things about like if I play him in virtual pro wrestling. One thing I love doing is hitting the ropes and then doing this jumping high kick against whoever I'm facing. So it's something to behold. Like if you're watching the Taue match, it's something, keep an eye out for that. And just watch his form. It's really amazing to look at, in my opinion. So
it's almost like he floats in the air just for like a millisecond longer than what most people would, and just like with his frame, it's such a unique visual. It's and very graceful, like you said. I love that move from him.
And not too many people who have who come from a sumo background, right? That go into professional wrestling in Japan do like would
can't get their legs up that high.
No, they can't. Like if you look at people like who came from like Tenryu never, like he could do a drop kick, but he could never do I never seen him do a jumping high kick. You know, whoever else like that came from sumo. There's tons of people like right now, like in Noah Yoshiki Inamura. I think he came from a sumo background, maybe, didn't he? I can't remember, but very few people do a jumping high kick like this, especially if their background was sumo wrestling.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. Okay. So from there, let me see. I keep getting lost in my notes.
I think they're on the floor now.
Okay. Yep. Gotcha. So Taue follows Williams to the floor, hits a DDT, and there's some back and forth brawling after both men get up from the DDT, and then they end up going back into the ring. From there, Williams takes control as he hits a huge shoulder tackle off the top rope, and then gets his revenge from those earlier two guillotines on the top rope by basically gorilla pressing Taue over his shoulders as high as he can lift him, and then dropping him neck first straight on the top ropes, right in the middle of the ropes.
I like, it's interesting to see like the two different techniques. So like Taue is just like kind of scooping someone, and he like hurls them. He hurls Steve Williams into the ropes, like, and then catches him chest or throat first into the top rope. But like Steve Williams gorilla presses like him. Like if you know, like if you don't know what a gorilla press is, if you know the Ultimate Warrior, that's what the Ultimate Warrior's finisher was like. Pressing somebody over his head. He's pressing Taue, which like the weight distribution can't be easy for Williams to do this, but he gets him up and he throws him onto the top rope. It's like, it looks very, very impressive. What I gotta make a couple of notes here in that, like, there's that spot where like they're on the apron and he's trying to get Dr. Death, like Taue's trying to get Dr. Death up on the apron. So he wants to go for the apron, the Do Otoshi that he used famously last year against Misawa, right? But like, you know, like Steve was like, no fucking way, you're not you're not doing that to me, especially at this point in the match. It's like, I'm not taking that move. But you know, the great thing, you mentioned the shoulder tackle from the top rope. It's beautiful. Like the beautiful thing is like one like Dr. Death looks really graceful doing it, but the other thing that's really, really impressive, Joey, he sticks the landing. He lands on his feet.
Oh yeah.
Like, and it's like a gymnast doing, like, you know, like all their like stuff on the poles and stuff like that, and then the stick landing. He sticks the landing on the shoulder tackle, which you don't see too often from anyone.
Simone Biles-esque landing. Not quite, but it was very impressive. It's like, I usually, you see guys kind of fall to their knees, but like you said, that he just kind of, I mean, with any shoulder tackle, like even not off the top rope, just on the same level as your opponent, on the mat, like you'd expect the guy to fall to his knees. But yeah, Dr. Death just straight up just lands on his feet like a true professional that he is. But from there, we get the guillotine spot, revenge from earlier in the match. Taue then fires up, hits a boot, a neck breaker drop, and then a choke slam for a 1 count. Budokan then comes alive again. There's just that the crowd is buzzing at this point.
Yeah, it's interesting because like we talked about like Doc using the Tiger suplex, but he tries to go for in this point in the match, he tries to go for a dragon suplex, like a full Nelson into suplex, and then like, you know, thankfully for Taue, he gets to escape that, and he hits like, you know, he busts out a Baba move. He does a neck breaker lariat drop. Yeah, that you know, like I'm sure is like, yay, like I got this move from Baba because I have a body type like Baba. But I gotta mention, like, I don't know if you're at this point where like, you know, Taue does hit this really ugly looking Nado Otoshi. And it's ugly looking because, like, you know, like, unfortunately, like, here's the thing, Steve Williams can't get up for these spots. Like, he can't like propel himself up in the air to help Taue make this move look good, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's, I mean, like we were talking off air, I don't think Williams really had any interest in taking any big bumps on his back in this match.
No,
he must have been hurting like some type of way, but that's not to say the effort was not any less than what you would expect for a championship carnival final or champion carnival. I always say that, I'm sorry. No, he was avoiding taking a back bumps like the plague in this match. But from
think about this. He's been in the company, like, he starts in All Japan in 1990. he's like been facing Jumbo Tsuruta, Tenryu, Stan Hansen, Misawa, Kawada, Kobashi, Taue, and like everyone else. He's been like in some of the like God forbidding, like, like grueling matches, singles matches and tag matches. So like his bump card must be like full up at this point for the Royal Road style.
Definitely. Yeah. And I don't know. I wasn't a dirt sheet reader at that point. But were there talks of him potentially going back to a big US company at this time? Cause I know he ended up in WWF.
This is the time, like he's like, like in 96, I'm looking at his career trajectory. He's like doing shots for ECW.
Yep.
Like, and like he's going back and forth there, but like it's in 98 that he does, like, I think through Jim Ross, he's getting the deal to go to the WWF, and like he's also doing, like, what else is he doing? Like some indies and stuff like that, including like what's ever left of the NWA at that point.
Sure.
But yeah, like his like he's, I think I've read somewhere like he's like at this point in his career, it's like it's a travel as well. He's traveling back and forth the United States to Japan, and he's working this style, and it's not good for him. And then like 99, he gets the gig basically that ends, I don't know, like kind of, to me, it's like effectively the end of his career in America is like the stuff with WWF and the Brawl for All, and then goes to WCW.
That's the Oklahoma stuff.
Yeah. And then he does, continues a bit more into, getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here, but like just to say, like he does another, like up to 2004, he's doing All Japan, but but he's done. He's toast by 1999. He's toast. Like, I hate to say it like that, but that's just being honest. Like he can't be the Dr. Death he was like in the late 80s and early 90s.
Yeah, those poor dudes with the big frames that just go all out just seem to peter out a bit quicker than the smaller guys that do the same, but such is life. Picking back up in that match after Dr. Death was the recipient of a big boot, the neck breaker job, and the choke slam. He did manage to kick out at one, but he was hurting, so he rolls out to the outside. But Taue is on fire and hits another beautiful move in the that Tope Suicida, which was one of the more memorable spots of the match.
Yeah, eat your heart out, Bret Hart. Your Tope Suicida is not as good as Akira Taue's. Actually, that's not true. Like, I love Bret Hart's Tope Suicida.
When you say that now, like, visually, it looked very similar. Like they both kind of hit the ropes and dive through the middle and top rope in similar ways.
So with Taue, he doesn't like dive like straight through. He does, like, he comes in an angle. Like he'll do like a kind of a crescent, right? Like in the ring, and he like, most people will hit the ropes and then go at you straight ahead, like dive through the ropes straight ahead. He does like kind of like a crescent, like, like he does like a kind of a half circle in the ring, and then he'll come at you from that angle that he's coming from. It's really interesting to see him do that instead of like going straight out. I think he's more comfortable with his frame being is like, I should just go sideways instead of straight ahead to gain the momentum to get through the ropes.
Yeah, and that's another aside. I feel like we keep going on tangents, but
it's fine.
We mentioned earlier and continue to mention how both of these men kind of move in unique ways. And I think that's something that gets lost nowadays in modern wrestling, because everybody wants to be the crisp, clean guy or girl that hits every move exactly how it's supposed to be hit according to this unwritten pro wrestling rule book. But I mean, I wish more wrestlers nowadays allowed themselves to have more of an artistic license when it comes to unique movements in the ring and how they apply certain moves and how they hit certain moves, instead of just having it look like the last gif of that specific spot that they saw on Twitter. That's just something completely unrelated to this match, but a weird kind of quirky opinion of myself. But I think
I mean, I agree with you, but I think like the 2000s ruined that for wrestling, like with the advent of the indies and like everyone trying to copy what they think is, whether it's, quote unquote strong style or quote unquote the Royal Road. Like they take the aesthetics of the moves, but they don't understand the psychology of the moves. They don't understand the psychology of like trying to be different from everyone else. Like if you look at let's take a look at, like, use New Japan as an example. Let's look at the Three Musketeers just as a parallel, right? Like none of them wrestle like each other. They're all different. Like Hashimoto is nothing like Chono. Chono is nothing like Muto, and Muto is nothing like Hashimoto. And then if we go back to All Japan, it's like Misawa wrestles nothing like Kawada. Kawada wrestles nothing like Taue, Kobashi, or Misawa. And like you just go through like Kobashi as well. He's nothing like these other two, and Taue is like the most unique one of them all. And then like maybe as a younger wrestling fan, I didn't get that necessarily. But as I get older and I watch a lot more wrestling, I get more experience as a viewer. I tend to think, I don't want everything to look the same. Like if these two guys or two women like just wrestle each other and they just the same, it's kind of like it can be fun and exciting, but it's also like if that's all you're seeing, it gets kind of tired, especially if you're watching it all in the same show.
Right. It's just kind of like a facsimile of certain maneuvers throughout an entire card, and it's like, okay, I saw this person, and this person hit that same move the same exact way in 3 different matches on the same night, and it's like,
it's a stylistic thing too, right? Like I for myself like cannot watch a full PWG show in one sitting, like because to me it just blends in. It's like, they're doing the same kind of match style, and you guys are all wrestling the same way as one another. Like the first 3 matches are like that. It's like I gotta break it up with something. It's like maybe just take a break and then come back. Okay, I'm watch 2 more matches and then I'll get to the main event. But if I think about it, it's like what was stand out about that PWE show? Well, like all the work was high level, but it's like nothing was different from one another necessarily. It all blends in. So like I can't watch modern like PWG from like the last 3 years is like all in one sitting. I could watch like Reseda era, like Legion Larry, fucking PWG, because there was some variety to the opening match to the main event. But like the last 3 years, I was like, what is it called? The Galaxy Theater, like Galaxy Theater era.
The Globe, I believe.
The Globe, whatever the fuck it's called. Like, I'd be like those characters from the Muppets. I'd be in the balcony just like blasting some of these guys from.
Is that Wallace and Gromit?
No, that's Wallace and Gromit. That animation, the dog, and it's the guy who owns the dog. Right?
Who am I thinking of? The 2 old guys. We'd be the 2 old grumpy guys.
Me and Mike Murray would be the two grumpy old guys up there. But he'd be like tempering me. You don't have to hate everything, WH. Yes, I do. Shut up. Let me wallow in my toxicity. Come on. But anyways, we could be that too if you want. But you again, you'd be tempering me. WH, it's not that bad. I'm like, yes, it is. It sucks. But anyway.
Yeah. I always try to err on the positive, like the lighter side. But I think we do well at balancing each other out. WH.
We one experience you and I have not had. We've been to Japan, like we've seen tons of Japanese shows together, relatively speaking, but I do have to go see an independent wrestling show with you. You're going to see the full hatred of my hatred for modern wrestling. Like, I love modern wrestling, but sometimes I fucking hate modern wrestling, especially on an indie level, because like I see some of the stupidest shit I've ever seen in wrestling at indie shows. Like if you ever went to like back in the day, UWA hardcore shows over in St. John's Hall on the border of Mississauga, I'm sure you've seen like some of their DVDs, right?
Yeah.
There's times like I've been there for 3 fucking hours and I want to go home. I want to just go with my friends to like the all night cafe diner and just get my fucking pancakes, but I still got to watch this fucking main event because it's like now we're at midnight and it's like why is this match still going on? Like, and like there's one match is like for the tag titles on a scaffold, and like the guy, I think it was Christopher Bishop, he's like he could grab the belts that are like he's on top of the scaffold, he grab the belts, or he can do a 450 splash from the scaffold onto fucking Josh Prohibition, whoever the fuck was his opponent or whatever. I can't exactly remember who was in this match, but and then I'm like, don't do it, just grab the fucking belt, dude, grab the belt.
He's got to do the 450.
No, but like then do the 450. That's what logically
win the match and then
then do the move. But no, he does the 450. Everyone else popped, and I was like, "Fuck you!" And I left. I was like, "Fuck this!" And I went out. I just left because that just angered me because like how stupid it was. But anyways, I digress.
Yeah. So yeah, we got to get you to or both of us to an indie show together sometime
right.
soon.
That's right. I got to wear a disguise though. Like if like there's people like looking out for me, like we can't advertise that I'm there because like maybe like I've built up like a lot of enemies on the independent scene.
No, you're good, dude. Yeah, that's
I'm joking.
Yeah. we'll have fun though. We'll plan the rest. We'll plan it off air, but I look forward to that someday. Well, getting back to the match, if you cool with that?
Yes, of course.
Okay, cool. So we ended, I believe, on the beautiful tope suicida that we eloquently described. So now they both men are on the floor. They end up kind of taking a few moments, and then they start to battle back and forth on the floor, and then back up onto the apron. At this point, they're both kind of exchanging blows, and they fight for power or leverage on the apron, and that results in a choke slam from the apron to the floor from Taue to Williams. Williams didn't take a huge bump off of this. He kind of landed on his heels and then kind of did a back roll, and it looked a bit awkward, but like we said earlier, Williams was trying to avoid taking any back bumps, especially off the apron to the floor at this point. I'm sure it was a grueling tour and this match, and that, like he said, his body was pretty close to just being done at this point. So it was probably erring on the side of caution on this bump was probably a smart choice for the man, and the crowd still reacted in suit. They still were eating it up, and there's no Jumbotron at this time at Budokan. So I think visually, I think most of the crowd probably saw this and was like, oh yeah, no, Dr. Death died on that, choke slam. So
yeah, I mean, with that spot, like, I wrote in my notes, Taue finally hits the apron Nodoa Toshi, and it looks like shit. Because like I'm remembering the year before, he hits Misawa with that, and Misawa takes the back bump. He takes the from that move, and it looks fucking awesome. But here, I want to also preface this, or like as an addendum to this comment, like that I think it looks like shit, is like, as a human being, I completely understand Steve Williams not wanting to take that bump on his back. But as a fan, I have to say it looked terrible. Okay? Like the fan in me, it looked like shit. The human in me, thank God he didn't take that bump. I just want to say that, okay? Like but it doesn't look good. Like he lands, I don't think he lands on his heels. I think he lands like flat on his feet, and then he takes the bump. Okay, like listen, I'm not saying like I don't like it. Doesn't. I'm glad he didn't do it if he's feeling that bad about it. But I'm just saying it takes me out of it because it's like I saw Misawa do it the year before,
Yeah.
And if it was Misawa in that spot or Kawada or Kobashi, they would have taken the bump.
It's very true. Yeah. So. Yeah. No, I do not discredit Williams for not taking a full back bump on this. And it's still, I feel like even viewers at home, like watching this on video, if they would have went to the hard cam for this shot, we would have been like, we would have not known like that this was an awkward bump. It would have looked deadly and crazy and like just as impactful as you would have hoped. Unfortunately, they went to one of the floor cameras. But yeah, I mean, if you're in the building, these guys are surrounded, like the whole floor at ringside is surrounded by cameramen. Like you're not going to be able to see how they land. Like if they land on their feet a little for a second and then kind of roll or whatever, it still kind of serves its purpose, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No, I think live, yeah, like if you're on the other side of the ring in the stands or on the floor, it's like you're not going to see. You're just thinking, "Oh shit, he took the Nodoa Toshi off the apron." Like,
exactly,
like Misawa did last year. Oh my god!
Yeah,
the only people who are going to really see it at full are the people right like on that side of the ring, in the front row, really. And like I think because it's done so quickly, like it doesn't look as bad as it does like from us like watching it on TV. So
right, yeah. In hindsight, they probably should have went to the hard cam if they could have. Edit it after the fact, but such is life. It's still a great match and it's still a great bump that gets the correct reaction that you would hope for from the crowd. But from there, Taue dumps William back into the ring and attempts for a pinfall, but only gets a 2 count. Dr. Death then evades a choke slam attempt and hits a big backdrop driver, and the crowd pops again and kind of goes to the next level of heat for this final match in the tournament. Taue's on the ground. He's kind of regaining his feet as Williams goes to the corner and goes into his 2-point stance and hits the shoulder tackle. And they zoom in on Williams after he hits that 2-point stance shoulder tackle, and he is on fire. He is feeling it. He is kind of shaking, kind of pumping up. From there, Dr. Death picks up Taue and hits a huge Dr. Bomb for a 2.9999 if you're a Fire Pro fan. Dr. Death then goes for another Dr. Bomb, but Taue sits out as kind of another thing I really didn't know how to articulate. But
yeah, so either Dr. Death like loses his grip on Taue, or Taue somehow awkwardly reverses it midair, like as
that's
he's being lifted. Happened, yeah. And I can't tell which one it is either. And Taue ends up on top of Williams, and Kyohei, why? Like, I don't know if this is the planned spot or not. I tend to think it was probably, Williams is going to go for the Dr. Bomb again, and then he's going to kick out of it. But it turns out if that was the case, and Taue accidentally ends up on Williams, Kyohei Wada, being the great referee that he is, wisely treats it like a shoot and goes for the 3 count. But fortunately, Doc kicks out. But it wouldn't have mattered because we'll get to why. So Dr. Death hits that first Dr. Bomb, goes for the second one like we were talking about. And what I note is he goes for the Dr. Bomb. Taue kind of sits out and squishes Dr. Death like a bug for a 2 count. And then at that point, Taue kind of takes control again of the match, gets back up, hits a big sit out power bomb for a 2.99 for himself. But Dr. Death kicks out, obviously. Both men That's a dynamic bomb, baby.
I'm terrible with move names. I'm sorry. You'll have to correct me. So at this point, both men are gassed, and we're obviously in the finishing stretches of the match. Taue shoves Dr. Death into the corner, goes for a lariat, but Dr. Death moves out of the way and attempts a German suplex. However, Taue gets his foot on the top turnbuckle and gets some leverage, and then allows him to land on top of Williams again, similar to that second Dr. Bomb. And he squishes him like a bug a second time. Taue then picks Williams up, hits a spectacular running big boot again that lands just Beautiful. square in Dr. Death's face, just right on the nose. He picks Williams up, hits the choke slam, and then you get the 1, 2, 3 in 21 minutes, 41 seconds. And Akira Taue is your 1996 Champion Carnival winner.
That's correct. And like Budokan just pops because our guy won. Like he redeemed himself from last year's final against Misawa, where he lost that match, and he beat Dr. Death to finally win the Champion Carnival. Like, I think there's people were just clamoring for him to get that kind of a win in 96. I think 96 is I'm not 100% sure. I think 96 is one of for Taue, he has a lot of momentum during that year. So, and he would continue it. So I want to go into kind of the aftermath of this is Misawa and Akiyama a month later after this match on May 23rd, beat, Kawada and Taue for the World Tag Team titles. And you're thinking, well, that's not good. And I'm like, well, the day after on May 24th, Taue, he won the Champion Carnival. So he gets the shot against Misawa, and for who's the Triple Crown champion at the time. And he beats Misawa for the Triple Crown. This is his only reign as Triple Crown champion. And it's just okay, there you go. He did something, very few people can say that they did. And that was to beat Misawa for the Triple Crown title. So it's a great, I think feather cap on his, if you look at his career as a whole, this is this Champion Carnival win, and then subsequently winning the Triple Crown from Misawa is it's definitely a highlight. The only other thing that I would compare it to would be when he beats, who did he beat? Marufuji?
Gawa.
No, is it Marufuji? He beat Ogawa, didn't he?
For
the GHC title?
I thought it was Marufuji, which would be poetic justice because I believe it was 10 years later and beating Misawa's predecessor. That would be a pretty cool story. But yeah,
I'm embarrassed that I don't know this, but no, I let me see. Hold on, titles. Akira Taue. Let me just look at him. Akira Taue titles. Titles. GHC heavyweight champion matches. Who did he beat again for become GHC champion? He defeated. He beat Riccio.
Yeah,
he beat Riccio because everyone hated Riccio's title reign because he was not, because it was such a letdown after Kobashi's epic title reign. So like when he beats Riccio like that, I remember why I got that tape or I got that DVD, and the crowd goes nuts because they want to see anyone but Riccio be the champion. And and then he has one defense against Morishima, and then he loses the title to Jun Akiyama. But like that's on November 5th, 2005 that he beats Riccio at that Budokan Hall to become the GHC heavyweight champion. But I think that for him at that point in his career, that's like the gold watch. Like, thanks for coming to Noah with me. Taue, thanks for leaving Kawada behind and coming with me. Here, you're going to be the one who ends this disastrous reign that Takeshi Riccio and that no one has any time for, and here's the thing, it's funny is like Riccio gets to defend that belt against Tanahashi in the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah. At that big Kobashi Sasaki and Kawada, but that was the final Kawada Misawa match too, wasn't it?
Yes, and that's third from the top. The GHC heavyweight title match is third from the top because our champion, he can't go on last. He's not a big enough star. We haven't built him up enough. But I digress about like the way Noah booked its younger talent back in the early 2000s. But that's like my notes of that like that. So I just want to say for me overall, the first viewing of this match, Joey, like I just thought it was okay. I wasn't too impressed with it. I would have gone, if I did an immediate rating for it, I would have gone 3.5. But I thought I'm going to watch this match one more time before we do this podcast. And the second I did this morning, and I gained an appreciation for how good Taue was in this match for compensating for like Williams's physical shortcomings by the time we reached 1996. And for that, like I will go 4 stars for this match, mainly because I think Taue does an awesome carry job, and not to discredit kind of devalue like Williams' contribution in the match, because I do think there's like some flourishes, but overall it is Taue who carries this match. It's Taue who's like keeping it together. It's Taue who's like making it as exciting as it turns out to be in this, because it's most of his spots that he does that pop the crowd. And it's like near the end when Dr. Death hits like signature moves like the Dr. Bomb and the dangerous driver, that the crowd's like, oh, he might beat Taue. It's exciting. And Taue kicks out, and it's all resting on like the crowd reactions are all resting on like the Taue being able to overcome these dangerous moves that have beaten other people in the history of Dr. Death's career in All Japan Pro Wrestling.
No, I would probably agree with your take on this. Like it took me a couple of watches to really, for it to sink in how good of a match this really was. It was just the pace. Like I respected the pace and the action on the first viewing, but me kind of like paying more attention to the psychology and then adding on actually doing match notes and kind of seeing the actual through line of the match itself really helped out a lot with my appreciation of this. And I mean, I just, like I said, the reason I picked this match was I really like that both of these guys kind of move in unique, very different manners when in the ring. And I don't know. I think that showed very well in this match. I mean, there, like I said, there was some great action and the pace was very high throughout the match. But that's not to say there weren't a few kind of gritty, kind of awkward little spots here and there in the match. But to be honest, I mean, they really didn't deter from my enjoyment for this match. It was if anything, it actually kind of helped because I kind of enjoy, nitty gritty, not perfect matches like we were talking about earlier today.
Yeah, I could appreciate it as well. I think it's nice to see something that looks different. Like I think is your main point there.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's before we get into like plugs, like I want to talk about next month's episode. Joe, you know what? This is episode 15, so that means next month, the next episode of the Long and Winding Road is episode 16. So as you well know, every fourth episode we're gonna do a biography series, and we've done one on Mitsuharu Misawa. We've done one on Toshiaki Kawada. I did one with Case Low on Kenta Kobashi. And so number 16 is the fourth of our biography series. And we're going to be, of course, talking about Akira Taue. So appropriately enough, episode 14 was about Akira Taue. Episode 15 was about Akira Taue. Episode 16 will be all about Akira Taue, like his life, his career, as much information as I and my co-host, who I'm just trying to finalize. So I'm not going to say who it might be, find about Akira Taue, and we're going to do an overview of that. And I just want to say, like, people think, oh, that's the end of the biography series. I'm planning to do at least 3 more after this. Like, I definitely want to do one on the fifth pillar, the unofficial fifth pillar, Jun Akiyama. I think it's important to do that. We have to do one on Stan Hansen. And I want to do one on Jumbo Tsuruta. And I definitely want to do the final one will be on Giant Baba himself. Well, I want to do a biography series and let people know about the life of this very, very interesting figure in the history of professional wrestling, and pretty much the reason why we get to watch all these great matches because of Giant Baba. So,
yeah, God bless Giant Baba.
Yes. Like I have like who I know I want. I know who I want to do the Akiyama biography episode with. I know who I want to do I'm trying to decide about the Hansen one. I have 2 candidates for that, but I know I've already asked the person I want to do the Jumbo one with. And I haven't asked the person about the Baba one, but I know who I want to get for the Baba one. So it's like people, who are they? It's like you'll find out in time. I'll tell Joey off air but I'll tell Joey off air. But like you people will have to keep listening and find out who these special guests. But I think when you hear some of the names, you can be like, oh, that makes sense. That person makes sense. That person makes sense, and that person makes sense. Each person will, I think, make sense for why they get to do those biography episodes with me. So we got Akiyama. I think in order it's going to be Akiyama, Hansen, Jumbo, and then Giant Baba, and that'll be the end of the biography part of the Long and Winding Road. Unless someone says, David, you need to do an entire series on Wolf Hawk, entire episode on Wolf Hawk Field. I don't know if that's going to happen if someone requests, or what. I need to know everything there is to know about Johnny Smith. And I love Johnny Smith, but I don't think there's enough out there for me to do a biography episode about Johnny Smith. So there you go. Calgary. I think he moved from England to Calgary when he went to Stampede Wrestling. So he's kind of Canadian. So felt Canadian there. But yeah, I'm now just rambling on. Joey, where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Joey_Bay, and then I also have an Instagram, Bowie, BOEY_J. Had to switch around the first letters because Joey Bay was already taken on Instagram. But yeah, follow me on Twitter for the wrestling heavy content and mostly positive takes. And then follow me on Instagram if you want to, see videos of my cats and maybe some live wrestling Insta snaps and things of that nature. But that's really all I have to plug is just my personal socials.
Well, I will say, like one thing about your Twitter is like it is really a good resource for people who want to like kind of keep up with things that are happening in the American independent scene. Like Joey goes to a lot of independent shows, especially like in the Midwest area, right? So it's great to see like what's happening in St. Louis, what's happening in Chicago, what's happening in like surrounding areas. Like Joey's Twitter is probably one of the better bets for finding that out. And then if you like the light tube stuff, like Joey does too, so he's you're gonna find a safe space there for sharing your love with Joey Bay. With myself, not so much. Pizza cutters, light tubes, barbed wire, not my thing. Not really gonna find me saying positive about that stuff. So, but Joey, definitely, he loves it. He's throwing pizza cutters at Mark Cardona. I don't think he did, but like you wouldn't do that.
No,
you're not scum like that, you know.
No,
like, listen. Let me just say again: if throwing like an empty plastic bottle is one thing, if you're throwing pizza cutters at another human being, fuck you. You're scum.
I didn't personally see that, but I did see all the other trash that got thrown into the rig, and
full bottles, anything glass, fuck you, and anything sharp, fuck you. Like empty plastic, okay. I wouldn't do it, but okay, you know.
Yeah, totally. No, next time we see each other in person, WH, I'm gonna make sure to. I have that GCW plant shirt, and I'm gonna make sure to wear it so we can get a picture together. And it's crazy how much discourse gets caused from that stuff. But yeah, I'm here for the ride, man. I enjoy it all. So yeah, if you want to just talk general positivity towards wrestling, I'm probably your guy. More often than not, I'm going to try and find the silver lining in most things. But
listen, I'm pretty happy. Like as of this recording, looks like Hazuki is back in Stardom. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Oh, is she really?
Yeah, there's like in the Osaka shows, like she showed up. So we'll talk about that off air. But
oh my gosh, that's amazing.
The other thing I'm not positive about is like Kaito Kiyomiya getting run over by the Great Muta in a car. It looks stupid.
The car was going like 2 miles per hour.
Oh my god! It was like he headbutted that fucking car. He didn't get hit by that. It's like this stupid. Fuck you, Nosawa. Anyways, this is not the place for that. Thanks for listening. You can find me, of course, at WHPark9, the number 9 on Twitter. And if you want to see what I eat for lunch, usually follow me on Instagram. As well, like of course I do Post Perez with John Pollock usually, and when I get to do a bonus episode, I usually do it with a rotating guest host like Joey Bay or Dylan Fox. The last episode that dropped last week was with Andrew Thompson. Very fun conversation. Please check that out. And of course, I do this show, and of course, every week when there's an MCU streaming show on Disney Plus, I review it every week with Wei Ting at MCU Later, which you can only find on the Patreon. You got to sign up for the Patreon for that. And if you think I can be toxic, talk about wrestling, wait till you hear my comic book and TV takes. Okay. But there you go. But yeah, thanks to everyone who's supported the show, whether it's through retweets or nice comments to me. I really appreciate it. Thank you for everyone who's bought Pillars t-shirt. Spread the word. John Cena, next time you meet Eddie Kingston, wear it and like buy one for him and then have him wear it and take a picture, put on Instagram, whatever. There you go. I'm trying to get John to buy another t-shirt. You might do it, but there you go. And yeah, like next month, the Akira Taue episode gets to be finalized, but so I'm not going to name the person right now. So, but on behalf of Joey, thanks for listening. And until next time, goodbye.